I love Yokai Watch. It's my favorite game series ever created, and really just is my favorite media ever created. I love everything about the series, and I could really just talk about it for hours. So I'm gonna do that. Yokai Watch 3 is an interesting case of a game because, well, everything about it is strange. Its release, its gameplay, its gameplay, its gameplay, its gameplay, its gameplay, its gameplay, its gameplay! I hate Yokai Watch 3's battle system. I hate the way it plays, I hate the way it flows, which it doesn't at all. It's a slow battle system that takes forever and ever. It takes like 30 more seconds than Yokai Watch 1 and 2's battle system, but I hate it. I'm mad. I have strong negative feelings about a game that barely anybody owns, and if I have to hold in these negative feelings for any longer, I might explode in real life, in person, on June 28th, 2027. So before that happens, I need to express these feelings right now. So, I just get on with the video. I need to do this. Before talking about Yokai Watch 3's battle system, I should probably talk about 1 and 2's battle system, so that we're all on the same page when talking about this game. If you think you have a good understanding of the battle systems, I don't care. You can skip ahead if you want, but we're still talking about this. Yokai Watch 1 and 2's battle system is pretty simple. You have a wheel, you can spin the wheel, you have 6 yokai in the wheel, 3 in the front, 3 in the back. The 3 back yokai do not attack, and the 3 yokai in the front do attack. Yokai will attack automatically, and you can press the ultimate button to give the yokai a super powerful charged attack that will take a few turns to charge, leaving them vulnerable for anybody else to attack them. All yokai have a physical attack, an elemental attack, and also an Inspirit. Inspirits in this game are buffs and debuffs. You can have either a positive Inspirit or a negative Inspirit, depends on the yokai. If one of your yokai gets negatively inspirited, then they won't be able to use its ultimate until they're purified. In order to purify them, you put them in reserve and press the purify button. Simple as that. There's also an items and target button, but those are pretty self-explanatory. We really don't need to go into them for this video, except for the items, but like only a little bit. Main thing we really want to focus on is the wheel. Like spinning the wheel? Yeah, I like spinning the wheel a lot. The wheel is a fun mechanic. I like the wheel. Repositioning your team can happen in a snap, and so the fights go by pretty quickly as you're constantly spamming ultimates, switching to a different composition to spam more ultimates, or purifying yokai. Because of that, combat is pretty quickly paced, and it's really fun to do, and the longer the fight drags on, the worse you're gonna end up, as your yokai are very fragile and will die very quickly. And also, most boss yokai have multi-target attacks as their regular attacks and not just their ultimate, so you want to end fights as quickly as possible, or you're just gonna end up having a bad time, and I like that. There's also sort of a risk and reward system of battling where, well, using ultimates, you're leaving your yokai vulnerable for anybody to attack them while they're charging their ultimates, and in Yokai Watch 2, you can use Moxie's ultimates, which are even more powerful ultimates, but the yokai that is charging it requires his 2 adjacent teammates to charge it with him, leaving 3 yokai vulnerable, or just 2 yokai if you're doing it on either edge. I don't use these all too much, as I sort of see them as a Z move of Yokai Watch, but I'm glad that the ability to use it is there. Yokai Watch 2 also introduced poking, where if one of the enemy yokai is loafing or if they're inspirited, you can poke them and prod around on the screen to get either some of your soul back, or do some damage to the enemy, or increase their friendliness, or increase the money you get. I like this. You have a very limited amount of time to do anything in the poke, so you have to be quick with what you want. I generally go for the damage because free damage is free damage, but also I just like that it doesn't get in the way of any gameplay. You can do it really quickly and then get out of there, and that will be important later on. I think the best way to exemplify what I love about the Yokai Watch battle system is through Snartle, the secret fight that happens if you break the traffic laws too many times. Whoops. As I was saying, Snartle is a secret fight that you'd get from breaking traffic laws, and he is extremely deadly at all stages of the game as he scales with your watch rank. He has a really high strength stat, he has a passive ability that buffs his strength and spirit when he kills an enemy, and he likes spamming his ultimate that attacks all enemies. You have to really think fast throughout this entire fight and constantly try to keep away from the pressure he's trying to put onto you, and I think that's really fun. This can carry over to a lot of other boss fights. A thing the game really likes to do is pressure you into a corner where you don't know what to do, you don't know who to revive, you don't know who to heal, so you constantly don't want to be in that situation or you're just gonna get a game over. I think it's a really fun gameplay loop and I really enjoy going through it, even though the games get significantly easier the more you know how the fights work. So overall, Yokai Watch 1 and 2 has a pretty good battle system. It requires a little bit of positioning knowledge to really take it full advantage of, but it's just fun in general. You can spin around a wheel. I like spinning a wheel. Okay, that's enough wheel spinning. Your wheel privileges are now gone. Yokai Watch 3 decides to do away with the wheel in place of a 3x3 grid. You can have 3 yokai out in the front and 3 yokai in reserve. You swap out the 3 reserved yokai with the 3 up front yokai in any position you want, and now yokai have linking where if 2 yokai or more are next to each other, then they will do combo attacks where they will attack one after another, and if one yokai is in front of another yokai, for example a Linguist in front of a Jibanyan, then the Linguist will take all of the damage that was initially meant for the Jibanyan, making yokai guarding way more effective than just a Sultimate that taunts other yokai. And finally, Sultimate sort of got a rebalance, where now when you're charging Sultimates, the meter slowly depletes, so if you cancel the Sultimate in the middle of charging it, then you'll have to wait for Sultimates to replenish back up. And I really like this change. It forces you to commit to a single position to do your Sultimate, because if you cancel it at all, you're going to have to wait for it to refill up by itself, so you really have to think about when you're going to do your Sultimate. I think that's really cool, and I think it would work in both Yokai Watch 1 and 2. I think that's all the good things I had to say about this battle system. Alright, now let's get into the things that I don't like about this battle system. Oh, one more thing. Talking about the gun lastly. I'll start with Sultimates since they've already been brought up. All Sultimates are telegraphed, very obviously. When you're charging a Sultimate, there's red squares that show where the Sultimate's going to end up, showing the enemy where not to be when it's charged up. And charging Sultimates is really, really slow. The enemies are able to see where the Sultimate is going to end up hitting and where they should move, not near the red squares. And they don't start as red squares, they start as yellow squares, then as they gradually get charged, they become orange and red, giving you also a timer on when to move your yokai and when to reposition. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, you can dodge Sultimates now, and it's really easy to do it. It's just positioning. You just have to move your yokai out of the way of the red squares, and you're all done. You're finished. And since Level 5 wanted to make full use of the new grid system, they decided to change single target attacks too, to where single target Sultimates, instead of hitting a random single yokai, will hit down one row vertically, meaning some bosses can't even be hit if your yokai aren't positioned correctly, and some yokai can't even hit the boss at all depending on what their Sultimate is. This is a massive problem for early game yokai, especially where these Sultimates are going to be common. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. So bosses in Yokai Watch 3 got a little bit of a change. They will now take up the entire grid, so you can hit them with any Sultimate anywhere on the board, and yeah, you're guaranteed to hit them. That's great, that's cool. Some bosses only take up one tile, so you can only hit them with specific Sultimates. This means that Snartle cannot hit Gargaros. Other S ranks like Snow Spectre and Snee also can't hit Gargaros because their Sultimates are locked to hit away from the center tile, which is where bosses will always be if they are restrained to only one tile. This is a massive problem, and it just makes some yokai completely useless in a fight if they can't use their Sultimate very well, and Sultimates are an integral part of the fight, and Sultimates become even more useless when you realize that yokai can move away from them, which I already brought up in a previous part a minute ago. I hate the Sultimate rebalancing. It makes Sultimates basically useless unless they're healing Sultimates or defense Sultimates or whatever. At least in Spirit, Sultimates still hit every target. So for supporting skills, yeah, Sultimates are pretty useful, but like, they just made attacking Sultimates completely obsolete. What's the point of support buffs if you can't fully utilize them? And then they decided to give Nate no. We're still too early for that. So Sultimates are worse off because they cost charge to charge, and they can be easily dodged, meaning you can be completely screwed over if the enemy decides to reposition at the very last second, which is something very common in the enemy AI. Your counter argument could be, well, then just have the yokai baited into going into one position so that you can finish them off somewhere else. To my response, this shouldn't be an issue in the first place. Baiting a yokai into a different position just feels stupid and I don't like it. It's even worse that yokai repositioning feels slow and clunky because it stops all gameplay so that yokai can move to a different position, causing a lot of fights to just go to a screeching halt as you wait for all of your yokai to make their move, and then you can continue the fight again. Oh, joyous. On the bright side, you're also given healing orbs and Sultimate orbs on the board that you can move around and collect. Oh yeah, by the way, there are things that'll appear on the grid where you can move around your yokai and collect these things. These things can be big lasers that do massive damage to the enemy. Okay, well, Sultimates are now obsolete even more. There's healing orbs and Sultimate orbs that refill your HP or Sultimate meter. It's really useful for the soul meter, not too much the healing. It doesn't do too much to restore HP. This feels like a stupid ripoff of Paper Mario. The purification rod also isn't all too useful because you can purify your yokai really easily and you don't even have to send them in reserve in 3 to purify them. You can just purify them while they're up front. So the risk of possibly leaving out your best yokai just isn't a factor anymore. You can just purify them if they're inspirited. It's just a minor inconvenience now. You can't use your Sultimate anymore, but like I said, what's the point of using a Sultimate if you can't even hit anything? Do fights in Yokai Watch last more than 30 seconds? Not at all, but that's fine. They're fine the way they are because that's just the pacing of Yokai Watch. You go into a fight, you blow through it, and then you go on to the next fight. It's just a little thing that you get through. But in Yokai Watch 3, no, you have to just press the fast forward button and wait for the fight to end itself because you can't use a Sultimate to speed up the process. I think I'm starting to repeat myself a little too much. Let's start talking about the bosses a little bit more. All of the bosses suck. Not all of them, but most of them suck. So first thing, I'm just gonna get this out of the way. Every boss attack is telegraphed. So half of the boss attacks in this game now are telegraphed. They're sort of like Pseudos ultimates, and they're very obviously telegraphed. They show you where they're gonna hit, and then they hit there. It takes 3 turns to charge, very obviously tells you where to go. Slackerjack is an exception because his ultimate takes several turns to charge, and you don't know what squares it's gonna take up until it's fully charged. That's a lie. Just before this ultimate is fully charged, you can see where this ultimate is going to hit and quickly move your yokai out of the way. Slackerjack had one good thing going for him with 1,000 bad things. Dodging Diddy is the worst move ever. It makes him block 6 attacks before he can be hit again, and I hate it so much. It makes the fights even slower. Every fight in Yokai Watch 3 is so slow. The biggest problem about Yokai Watch 3 is that this game moves so slowly. All of the battles feel slow, the game feels slow because there's a bunch of raft sections. I don't like the raft sections. And the entire chapter with the mansion is so boring. There's an entire baffle board puzzle where you have to befriend certain yokai and you have to find them first, and it's annoying to find them, it's annoying to befriend them, and overall, I don't like that chapter, and I don't like the pacing of Yokai Watch 3 in general, and the fight becomes even slower when you introduce the I'm gonna stop myself right there. Not yet. Not yet. So overall, I don't like the boss fights that much in this game. The Zenlightner is a fine fight because he's a super boss, and generally the super bosses are treated much better. And I also like the Ghoulfather and also Rongo Swirl. They're both pretty fun fights. Rongo Swirl is one of my favorite fights in the entire series. At least he had a gimmick that took advantage of the grid and made you position in weird ways and blocked off some places where you could move. So I think his fight was really cool, and I applaud him for just being a good fight. The Ghoulfather is also a fine fight. He just summons in minions and you have to defeat the minions to actually hit him. It's a fine gimmick, not really something for the first form of the final boss of the game, but whatever. All the other gimmicks for the other bosses suck, except for the Yokaiju, where he just introduces an entirely new type of gameplay, which is sort of funny. You would think that level 5 would take more advantage of the grid when they're already trying to take advantage of the grid with the ultimates and the Pseudos ultimates, but no, a lot of the boss gimmicks are just pin this and pin that. Rongo Swirl's gimmick is interesting because he'll just block off tiles and make some tiles automatically do damage to yokai over 3 turns. That's interesting. It's a fun fight to engage with, and you have to position your yokai in some weird ways, and I like it. Sure do wish all the other boss fights were good. I do like Dr. Madaman's boss fight because he just throws around bottles of poison that leave lingering effects on certain tiles. So that one's pretty good. I don't really have too much to comment on for the Zenlightner because I really haven't beaten him before, but when I have fought him, he was a pretty fun fight. He's alright. Though other fights like Superhero, the Executioner, Hoaxy Coaxy, Slackerjack, Pinozol, these are all fights that are slow and take forever and aren't really too fun, and I only really enjoy the music. They don't really have any challenge to them except Pinozol. They don't really have anything that makes them harder to fight except Slackerjack, and they aren't too memorable like other bosses. They don't have special gimmicks. They really just charge up an attack and let her rip in random areas, and that's basically all they got. The bosses post-merge sort of have gimmicks to them that are actual gimmicks and interesting to do, but too little too late. And plus, post-merge isn't even that hard at all, since by the time you get to post-merge, you already have access to the great items, good healing items. You already get access to really good healing items, because after the merge happens, you've presumably already done the Blasters portion, giving you access to the entire Kludovin continent, so you can get access to forbidden fruits and miracle medicines. Oh yeah, I forgot to bring up those. So now Yokai Watch 3 has healing items that will fully restore HP, instantly befriend any yokai that eats the forbidden fruit, and also miracle medicine that revives every yokai on the team and also restores all living yokai's HP. Let me tell you a funny story. On the eShop page of Yokai Watch 3, it says as a little tidbit, there's more strategy to the game now with the crafting table grid. Yeah, what's the strategy in getting instantly healed? You know what's even worse? They removed talismans from the game. In Yokai Watch 1 and 2, there were buff talismans that could buff a specific stat, and it could be really helpful when trying to get through fights. They can save you a lot of the time, and they just aren't given to you anymore. They're used in blasters, and they're sometimes thrown out in the field. Why can't I use buff talismans freely whenever I want? I already have items that instantly heal my HP to full and instantly revive all of my party. And sure, getting access to those items are optional content, but that doesn't matter. The Blaster's Tea portion of the game is integral to the overall story and game. That's where you do all of the post-game content, and you're better off starting off really early so that you can get everything out of the way. And guess what the first section of the first dungeon gives you as one of its Clutifact treasures? Now granted, you will need luck for the Clutifacts, but still, that doesn't stop you from redoing the section of the dungeon over and over and over until you get miracle medicines, and even then, I did this on my first try and got 2 miracle medicines. Though, if you really want to talk busted items, well, now it's time for the biggest point. Nate has a gun! In Chapter 3, Steve Jaws gives Nate the Dream Link that allows him to use the gun. This gun lets you shoot the enemy yokai's medals, which will cause either massive damage or massive friendship depending on what the gun rolled between foe mode and friend mode. There's also a high variation of both of those. Depending on what yokai medal you insert, there will be different shot types depending on what tribe the yokai is in. Like, Charming has a machine gun, Eerie has a grenade launcher, Tough has a shotgun, firework, I don't know. I could go over all of these shot types in excessive detail, but I choose not to because in reality, the Shady Sniper is the best shot type and it's the only one you're really gonna go for once you actually learn how to aim with this thing. The Shady Sniper has a good balance of fire rate and damage for what it gives you, and once you use it once, you're never gonna use anything else again, unless you want to be quirky and use the mysterious saw blades. And also, while the gun is active, you have 15 seconds where the game does not play at all. None of the battle is happening. You have 15 seconds to freely do all the damage you want, and that's where the problem starts. This effectively replaces ultimates because this is just straight up good damage for 15 seconds while nothing attacks your party. Who cares about strategy when you don't even have to play the game? If you want to get a Snartle, wait until Chapter 6, grab a Forbidden Fruit, wait for the gun cooldown to recharge in a different battle, then go into Snartle and then blast him and instantly kill him if you land on foe mode, because if that happens, he's dead. This gun deletes so much HP from bosses and instantly kills any non-boss yokai. This is criminal. It literally is criminal. It's a gun! You get so much free damage, and when you land on a high variation, that's just free damage deluxe. I also hate that the gun stops all gameplay. Most of the battle system in this game is stopping to let players do actions, like letting yokai move around, letting the gun do its thing, dodging out of the way of ultimates. I'm still mad about that. This battle system is a slow and clunky mess that's way too easy to bother with and doesn't want you to engage, but also wants you to engage. It's a confusing mess and I hate it. In conclusion, I gotta confess, I don't really hate this game all that much. I really enjoy playing it and I really enjoy talking about it, and despite everything I hate about the battle system, I would still recommend people to go play the game and also the series, even though I've barely scratched the surface about things I do not like about this game. I could have gone on about Zombie Night, I could have talked about Story Link, I could have talked about the pacing of the story overall, I could have talked about the fact you have to fight Agent X 5 separate times throughout this entire game. I could talk about the fact that the Western box art is a massive fall off from all 3 of the Japanese box arts. And I could also acknowledge that I have a toxic relationship with a video game. But I won't do that because, honestly, this video's already pretty long, and if you want to see more of me talk about this series, you can let me know by saying so in the comments. Also, if you have any opinions about this battle system, then let me know what your opinions on this battle system is, because I genuinely really like talking about this game, and I want to hear other people's opinions. I want to hear why people like this battle system or game, and I want to hear why people agree with me, because I like having an inflated ego. That's really all I have to say about this. Anyway, next month I'm probably going to be talking about the Touhou series, and also sorry about not uploading for 2 months. As you can tell, I have a new microphone. 2 months ago, my old microphone broke in the middle of me doing a recording for a video, and I forgot which one that was. So I had to wait to get another one, and I could have gotten another microphone the month after, in July, but then I came across a listing for a Blizzaria plushie, and I thought it was really cute, so I bought it. And that's why I didn't make a video in July. Was the purchase worth it? Well... She drank all my Dr. Pepper.